In our world today, everything is connected. So a network failure, it's not just some small technical glitch anymore. It's a massive threat that can literally bring entire industries to a grinding halt. So today, we're going to look at the real, incredibly high stakes of what happens when the digital world we all rely on just breaks. And just so you know, this is the very first installment in a 6-part series. It's all based on a really deep analysis by Virtualization Options LLC. We're kicking things off with the why, like why this matters so much, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the causes and solutions later on.
All right, let's start with a number that'll get your attention. $5 million. Yeah, over a third of organizations say that's what a single major network outage can end up costing them. I mean, for a lot of companies, that's a whole quarter's profit, just gone.
And it's not just about how much it costs, it's how often it's happening. A whopping 84% of businesses have seen these outages increase in just the last couple of years. So this isn't a problem that's getting better, it's actually accelerating.
And to really put that into perspective for you, big companies are now dealing with 3 to 5 of these incredibly expensive failures every single year. It's almost become the new painful cost of doing business in our digital-first world.
But here's the thing. Those initial numbers, as shocking as they are really just the beginning of the story. The true price of downtime is so much more damaging than just the revenue you lose in the moment. Let me show you why.
The costs, they just start to stack up. They compound. First, you've got the emergency response, right? You're paying for contractors, crazy overtime for your teams. Then come the regulatory fines. But the long-term damage, that's customer churn. People lose trust and they just leave. Seriously, for some companies, one bad outage can actually trigger a full-blown financial crisis.
And this brings us to a really crucial point. These failures, they don't happen in a vacuum. They cascade across entire industries in this devastating ripple effect. One company's technical issue very, very quickly becomes everyone's problem.
Just think about it. A single infrastructure outage somewhere can ground thousands of flights. All of a sudden, you have airlines trying to do manual check-ins, and thousands of passengers are stranded all over the world. Total chaos.
But the stakes, they can get so much higher. In healthcare, a network failure means doctors and nurses can't access patient records. Treatments get delayed, surgeries are canceled. It can literally become a matter of life and death.
And of course, that ripple effect slams right into the economy. When financial systems go down, commerce just freezes. ATMs stop working, credit cards get declined, the actual flow of money comes to a halt.
This has a huge impact on the physical world too. Without all that digital coordination, our supply chains just rupture. The complex networks that move goods all around the planet, they just grind to a standstill.
So this all begs a really fundamental question, right? Why is our digital world so fragile? Well, it's because these failures aren't really accidents. They're a feature of what we call a systemic threat, something that's baked right into our modern infrastructure.
So what is a systemic threat? It's a failure that's rooted in the very core design of our interconnected world. In other words, and this is a really critical distinction to make, failures aren't a bug in the system, they're a property of the system. That changes how you have to think about everything.
And this threat is really driven by 5 key things. We have global connectivity that stretches across continents. We have incredibly tight dependencies where one service relies on a dozen others to function. We have real-time operations with absolutely no room for error or delay. We're operating at a massive scale, serving billions of users. And all of it, every last bit, underpins our most critical infrastructure. We're talking finance, healthcare, government, you name it.
But okay, as if the financial costs and that crazy ripple effect weren't enough, we have to talk about the hidden costs. This is where the most profound, lasting damage happens, and it's almost totally invisible when the outage is actually going on.
The absolute best way to think about this is the classic iceberg metaphor. The immediate downtime, the lost revenue, that's just the small part you can see above the water. The real danger, the bulk of the problem, is what's lurking right below the surface.
This hidden impact pretty much falls into 4 big categories. First, you've got operational disruption. Things like lost productivity, projects getting delayed, maybe even data corruption. Then there's reputational damage. Customer trust just evaporates, you get hammered in the media. Next are the strategic setbacks. That big product launch gets pushed back, innovation gets put on hold, and finally, there's something called organizational trauma. This is the human cost, employee burnout, a loss of confidence that can honestly take years to fix.
And as the source material puts it so well, the technical recovery is just the very beginning. The real cost,
The true cost is paid over months and even years as all these deeper impacts start to bubble up to the surface.
So we've laid out the stakes, right? The massive financial costs, the wild ripple effects, and all that hidden damage. And this brings us to our next huge question, which is exactly what we're going to tackle in part 2 of this series.
And that leaves us right here with this one crucial question. If these are the stakes, what in the world is actually causing these failures to happen in the first place? We're going to break all of it down, from aging hardware to simple human error, in our next explainer. I'll see you then.